Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we cut through all the noise and really get to what matters. Today we're diving into the Sony A1 II, a camera that's got everyone talking, loving this. Don't miss what's next. Hit subscribe, like for more, and share with someone who is a fan of this product too. Your quick action helps us keep creating. So we've got a super detailed review here with all the specs, and we've got some really cool examples of what this camera can actually do out there in the real world. So if you're ready to kind of see if this camera lives up to all the hype, then you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's unpack this thing. First up, the sensor. 50.1 megapixels. It's a beast, which basically means you can capture some incredible detail. So you know those massive prints you've always kind of wanted to make where you can see like every single detail? This is the sensor that can handle it.
And you know it's not just about how many megapixels it has. This is a stacked CMOS sensor, and it's got this back illuminated design, which basically means it's really, really efficient at gathering light.
Okay, so what does that mean for like the everyday user?
Less noise, especially when you're shooting in low light, and just like cleaner, more vibrant images overall.
Okay, that makes sense. But what I'm really excited about, honestly, is the autofocus.
Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to be ridiculously good.
Yeah.
AI-driven real-time tracking, and something like 30% better eye detection.
It's a huge jump.
That's massive. Is it really that much better, though?
It really is. It's like, imagine you're trying to capture a shot of like a cheetah, right? Like sprinting across the savannah. This camera can track the animal's eye with insane precision, even at those speeds.
Wow.
That's the kind of performance that can really make the difference for, actually getting that shot.
Yeah, that once-in-a-lifetime shot.
Exactly.
And then there's the video capabilities. 8K at 30 frames per second, 4K at 120 frames per second. It's like having a Hollywood-grade camera in your hands.
And it's not just about the resolution either. We're also talking 10-bit, 4.2.2 color depth.
Okay, break that down for me, because I know some people are going to be like, what does that even mean?
It basically means you've got way more color information to work with when you're editing their videos.
Oh, I see.
Which gives you a ton of flexibility to color grade your footage and really make those colors pop.
Awesome. And you know another thing that this camera boasts? 15 stops of dynamic range.
Yes.
Now, for those who don't know what dynamic range is, it's basically the difference between the lightest and the darkest parts of an image that a camera can actually capture. And 15 is a lot. Like, that is
That's a huge amount.
It means you can capture detail in those bright highlights and in those deep shadows, even if you're shooting in really challenging lighting conditions.
Exactly. Think about like if you're shooting a landscape photo, you've got like a bright sky and maybe like a dark forest in the foreground.
Okay.
With this much dynamic range, you'll be able to see detail in both areas. You're not going to lose any of that information.
Awesome. And for the working pros out there, the A1C also has dual card slots, which is pretty much a must-have for backing up your work when you're on the go.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how does it stack up against the other big players in the market?
That's a great question. I mean, compared to like the Canon R5 and the Nikon Z9, the A1 II really shines when you're talking about continuous shooting speed.
Okay.
And, that insane autofocus system we were talking about earlier, of course, all of this amazing technology, it does come at a price. It's a premium camera.
Yeah. So is this camera just for professional photographers? Or can, like enthusiasts who just want the best of the best, can they benefit from this kind of power too?
I think anyone who's really serious about their photography can get a lot out of this camera. If you're looking for the absolute best in terms of image quality, performance, features, the A1 II really delivers.
Okay. And speaking of seeing this camera in action, the sources we've got have some incredible real-world examples. Like one photographer used it to shoot this stunning Milky Way panorama.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
The level of detail and the low light performance is just breathtaking. You can see individual dust lanes in the galaxy. It's remarkable.
Okay, I'm dying to hear more about these examples, but first, that Milky Way shot, that's just one perfect example of what this sensor can do. But what about action photography? Like, can it really keep up with those really fast-moving subjects?
Oh, absolutely. One of the sources we looked at featured a wildlife photographer, and they used the A1 II to capture these just incredible shots of birds in flight. Like, we're talking hummingbirds, eagles, everything. And the detail is just astounding. You can practically see individual feathers, even on the birds in motion. It's amazing.
And that's where that 30 frames per second burst rate really comes into play, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Being able to capture so many images in such a short amount of time, you're bound to get like the perfect shot.
You have to.
But is it just the burst rate? Or does the autofocus play a role there too?
Oh, the autofocus is a huge part of it. Like we were saying earlier, the A12 has that AI-driven real-time tracking, so it can like predict where that subject is going to move and keep it in focus, even at those really high speeds. I mean, it's a game changer, honestly, especially for wildlife photographers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've also heard about this pre-capture feature.
Oh, yeah.
What exactly is that and how does it work?
So the pre-capture feature, it's pretty cool. It actually starts buffering images before you even fully press the shutter button down.
Oh, wow.
So that means that even if you're like, a fraction of a second late, you can still capture the moment. It's like having a safety net, for those split-second opportunities.
Oh, that's incredible.
Mm.
That's got to be so valuable, especially for, action and wildlife photography. But this camera isn't just for still photography.
No, not at all.
It's a beast when it comes to video, too.
Absolutely. The source material actually included a filmmaker who used the A12 to shoot this documentary, and they were shooting in super low light. And the footage is just unbelievably clean. Like there's almost no noise at all. And that's all thanks to that back illuminated sensor we were talking about earlier,
Right.
combined with this camera's high ISO performance. Like they were able to capture usable footage even in situations that would have been impossible with other cameras. It's really impressive.
And it can light 8K video. That's insane.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of having that kind of resolution?
Well, for starters, the detail is just mind-blowing. Like, you can crop in significantly on your footage, and you don't lose any image quality, which is a huge advantage for filmmakers.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's that 10-bit 4.2.2 color depth, which means you've got so much more flexibility for color grading when you're editing. You can really create some truly stunning visuals with this camera. It's amazing.
Okay, so we've talked about the sensor, the autofocus, the video capabilities. But what about the dynamic range? You mentioned before that it has 15 stops, but what does that actually mean for real-world shooting?
Okay, so imagine you're shooting a portrait, right? And the sun is setting in the background. You want to capture that beautiful golden light. With this camera, you can capture detail in both the bright sky and the subject's face.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to choose one or the other. You don't have to worry about blowing out the highlights or losing detail in the shadows. It's just that's the power of having 15 stops of dynamic range. It's amazing.
It really sounds like Sony has packed everything they could into this camera.
They really have.
Speed, resolution, dynamic range, incredible autofocus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be some kind of trade-off, right?
Well, the price is definitely a consideration. Like we mentioned before, this is a premium camera.
Yeah.
It's aimed at those professional photographers and serious enthusiasts. But for those who demand the absolute best, the Sony A12, it's worth every penny. It's a camera that can really push you creatively and help you achieve your vision.
So for our listeners out there who are thinking about possibly getting this camera, what are the key takeaways? What should they really be thinking about?
I think the biggest thing to think about is, your needs and your shooting style. Like, this is a camera that excels in so many areas. Wildlife photography, sports photography, filmmaking, landscapes.
Okay.
If you're looking for a camera that's super versatile, high performance, that can handle anything you throw at it, the A12 is a fantastic option.
But what if you're not like a professional photographer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you still get the most out of this camera?
Absolutely. I mean, even if you're just starting out, this camera can grow with you as you learn and develop your skills. It has so much to offer.
Yeah.
And there's tons of resources out there to help you learn how to use all those features and really master it.
And don't forget, all those incredible real-world examples we've been talking about. I mean, those really showcase what this camera can do in the right hands.
Absolutely. And seeing how other people are using the camera, it can spark your own creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
And give you ideas for new things to try.
It really is like an inspiring piece of technology.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. What are your final thoughts on the Sony A12?
I think it really comes down to this. This is a camera that empowers you to create.
I love that.
It gives you the tools, it gives you the flexibility to capture your vision and to share your stories with the world. It's amazing.
I love that. It's not just about the specs and the features. It's really about the possibilities.
Exactly.
Speaking of possibilities, what do you think, our listener could achieve with a camera like this in their hands? What kind of creative boundaries could they push?
I think that's a great question to leave our listeners with. Imagine having that kind of power at your fingertips. What stories would you tell? What moments would you capture? It's really exciting to think about.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Sony A12.
Yeah, it really does. This camera, it's a tool, but it's also like a source of inspiration. Exactly. It pushes you to think bigger and be more creative and, capture those moments that otherwise might have just been lost.
And I think that's what's so exciting about, technology like this. It's not just about like the gadgets themselves. It's about how they can empower us to see the world in a new way.
Yeah, it's like having a new set of eyes, a new way of like perceiving and capturing, all the beauty around us.
So whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just starting out, your photography journey, we hope this deep dive into the Sony A12 has given you something to think about.
Yeah. And remember, the best camera is always going to be the one that inspires you to create.
Mm-hmm.
So find the tool that speaks to you and go out there and make something amazing.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, and share to support more great episodes. See you next time. Get your Sony A12 today and other alternatives, links in the description below.